everyone, it's Cass. Welcome back to my channel, What Cass Read. Today I'm going to start playing catch up on some Top 5 Wednesdays that I might have missed out. Now, I'm not actually doing today's official Top 5 Wednesday topic, which today is Halloween, October 31st, and I'm actually going to switch it up a little bit and go back a few Wednesdays and talk about my favorite magic systems. The first that I want to bring up, this is Every Heart a Doorway, written by Seanan McGuire. This is book number 1 of the Wayward Children series. This book, I feel like, deserves a mention in a magic systems video because this book, the whole premise is about what happens to these magical children that get whisked away through cupboards, through doorways, under their beds to magical worlds, and do they ever return back home? Do they stay in their magical lands? What happens to them? So I really enjoyed that aspect of the book and the setup, and then the fact that this whole story is about a house full of these children. It's kind of like this island of misfit toys of children who walked through wardrobes and then returned home, and they felt out of place, or they wish they had their powers, or did they still have their powers? And I thought this whole thing was such a great nod to all of the magic systems that came before it. But I felt like this had to be mentioned in a magical systems video because this acknowledges the fact that there are so many magical systems that we could have been a part of as kids. This next magic system that I want to mention, this is actually 2 magic systems in one book. This is Assassin's Apprentice, written by Hobb. Check out my fancy new cover. I'm slowly but surely purchasing all of these Harper Voyager paperbacks because I want to have like the matching set. There are 2 different kinds of magic systems in here. There is wit magic and skill magic, but these magic systems are not inherent to every single person, but the person who uses them is typically born with this ability. The wit magic is a magic closely associated with animals. The person has a bond partner with an animal where they're able to communicate, to feel, to live out their life together as human and animal, and that type of magic is not seen as something that you want to have in this book. It's actually looked very down upon because they associate you with beasts and they consider it beast magic. But the kind of bond that Chivalry forms with some of these animals is just really pure and really true, and as the books progress, when we finally understand what it truly means to bond to an animal with this wit magic, the kind of magic that they're able to perform together it excels just the communication aspect of it. The skill magic is a little bit harder to describe because it's all magic of the mind. It is a magic that is taught if you are found to have this kind of ability. Much like the wit magic, you can communicate with other human beings who have this same magic skill. The people who use it together form themselves a coterie and they can serve the royal family with their magical abilities. Both of the magic's uses are vast. The kinds of things that they've been able to do, whether it's healing, whether it's communication, whether it's sabotage, there's just all sorts of different uses for the skill magic. I'm gonna say this probably for the umpteenth time, but pick up the Farseer trilogy by Hobb. Alright, this is Truthwitch, written by Susan Dennard. This is book number 1 of her Witchland series. And Truthwitch, I love the magic in here because there are multiple different types of witches. There are truth witches, thread witches, wind witches, void witches, blood witches. I mean, there's just every kind of witch imaginable. And their witchery is inherent in them, and it's usually family lines, bloodlines. Safi on our cover is our truth witch. She can tell when people are lying and telling the truth to her, and this is just a very rare ability. There's a thread witch, which I thought was super interesting at first. Again, I thought that one would be super boring, but you're able to see the different threads that connect people, and you can see when the human relationships are going well or they could turn sour, and the thread witch can see when those threads are going to break or when they're going to form. So again, this magic in here, the land is rife with magic, and the kinds of witches typically follow geographical, family, political lines, and the way that these skills of witches are used throughout the book is really smart, really great, really intriguing for a YA fantasy, and it's pretty awesome. This book, this might be a controversial pick, but this is Eragon, written by Christopher Paolini. This is book number 1 of the Inheritance cycle. I have mentioned this in several of my fantasy videos, and I'll probably keep mentioning it you know, for as long as I have a booktube channel, but I will firmly defend my thoughts on this whole series. Eragon is a book about a young boy named Eragon who finds a dragon egg, and then the events of the world are forever changed. And the magic in here is an elvish magic. The true names, like the language's true name for things, invokes the power of the object. The first word in this magic language that Eragon learns is Brissinger, and that is the true name for fire, and he's able to set things on fire. And so by finding out, by invoking the true name of objects, he's able to have total control and total power over that object. One of the reasons why I like this magic system so much is because the consequences of using this magic incorrectly are very real. You have to have a firm grasp of the language that you're using, because any wrong slip up, any wrong word in this type of spell weaving, spell casting can have severe consequences. You must have equal amounts of power when you're using the language, a power source to draw from, and if you use a word that you do not have enough power to use, then you can end up draining power from yourself and you could kill yourself. Like, that is a very, very severe form of magic, and I just really enjoyed the kinds of consequences that we find in here, the kinds of close shaves that we run into this whole series. This whole series still gets knocked points in a lot of fantasy circles just because of the originality of it, but I will still defend this book because it's still a really good time. Then this book, I have The Name of the Wind, written by Patrick Rothfuss. I really appreciate the magic system in here because of how hard it is. It's not an easy thing to learn, and it's like not even an easy thing for our main character to be able to explain. He has to go to school to learn this magic, and even when you get admitted into the school, are you able to progress or not is a completely different story. This is another type of magical story where they invoke the true names of things, and discovering the names of things, the name of the wind being, quotes, personal mission to find. That's just like a really cool magic to me, and I just love the power of words and being able to have magic in words. So this is another fantasy epic that either you love it or you hate it, but I am firmly in the camp that I love this book. So this is The Name of the Wind, written by Patrick Rothfuss. And this book, I have to bring this up because how can you do a video about magic systems without talking about Harry Potter? This is Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, written by J.K. Rowling. This is my Slytherin edition that I just hauled in my gigantic fall book haul. I picked this up while I was actually rereading the Harry Potter series this year, so I had to get my Slytherin edition of this book. I feel like this magic system is another one of those, like, where there is so much theory behind it, but we don't get to uncover a lot of the theory, which for a children's book is a smart move. But as an adult rereading it, I was like, man, I wish that we had some of these materials in some of these classes that Harry is attending. He mentions in this very first book that magic is not all about waving a magic wand and saying a few words. And as he progresses through his magical education, through the 6 years that he does end up studying at Hogwarts, the magic gets progressively harder, the theory behind it gets progressively harder, and we get to learn a little bit about that. There's potion making, there's charms, there's astronomy. He has to take notes in astronomy, and as someone who took astronomy, I also had to do moon observations. It was dull work, and I don't recommend that class to anybody. Obviously, I have to mention this, this magic system, I think is more complex than people give it credit for because of how mainstream Harry Potter is, but again, if you look at the kinds of things that Harry has to do just to be able to practice this spell, I mean, how many times is he up super late at night trying to master a spell? We get so many scenes of him doing that because it's not something that comes to him right away. It's not something that comes to any of the students naturally except for Hermione. So this to me tells me that this magic system is incredibly complex and really hard to learn. We just don't give it enough credit, I think. Alright everyone, so those were 6 of my favorite magic systems for a very belated Top 5 Wednesday topic. Please go ahead and put some of your books with some of your favorite magic systems down below. Tell me which ones I missed. Tell me which ones that I'm missing out on. You can also find me on my Instagram and Twitter. It's at WhatCastRead. It's the same as this channel, so it's super easy to find if you want to discuss with me on there. And then of course you can also find my Goodreads link, and that's always going to be listed down below. Otherwise, you know how these videos end. I'll talk to you later. Bye.